In this tutorial, we will add a drawstring to the waistband of a pair of men's fleece jogger pants. To start with, make sure that you have a one-piece waistband and that waistband is sewn together in the center back of your garment. Next, let's create a layer clone from the one piece of the waistband. I'm going to clone this under, and I'm going to be mindful to keep my waistband here in the center of my 2D window so that I can use the center line as a marker for sewing. Next, I'm going to select the top and the bottom segment of one of the waistbands, and I'm going to right click and say distribute internal line between segment. And I'm going to put 4 offsets in here. These offsets are going to allow me to create elastic, and it's also going to be a place that I can use to sew to. Next, I'm going to select those 4 internal lines that I just created, and I'm going to add elastic here. I'm going to leave the strength at 10, and I'm going to make sure that the ratio is 100. This will give the effect of mobile-on tape. Next, I'm going to actually create a pattern piece for a drawstring. You could actually use the drawstrings from the library if you'd like. I'm going to choose to make a pattern piece out of the drawstring. I'm going to do it visually here. It should be about 4 inches or so longer on both sides of the waistband and be very, very thin, about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to push this to the back of my avatar, and I'm actually going to put this just under the waistbands. Oops. Just under the waistbands here. And again, I'm going to make sure that the center of my drawstring is along the vertical axis here in the 2D window. Next, what I'm going to do is remove the linked editing between these 2 waistbands. Because it's a layer clone, they're currently linked when you edit them. So remove linked editing by right-clicking in the 2D window. Next, on the outer waistband, I'm going to create 2 internal ellipses. And these are going to be 0.2 by 0.6 inches. I'm going to create these 2 shapes, and I'm going to put 1 on either side of our vertical center line. These are going to function as our holes that the drawstring will actually come through. I'm going to select both of them now and choose right-click in the 2D window and convert to hole. While these are selected here, I'm going to also add elastic to these with the 100 setting as well. This will help keep the shape of our openings. They will stretch a little bit, but they will stretch to look more like true circles than the ellipses they are now. Next, I'm going to select my drawstring. I'm going to confirm that it's the right material that I want. I'm going to turn on my arrangement points, range this on this lower back option here so that my drawstring wraps from the center back around to the front. And as we can see there now, there are the ends of our drawstring. While this is still in this state, I'm going to use my pin box and select the very ends of the drawstring. This is going to help us when we get to making sure that our drawstring runs through our waistband. What we're going to do is we're actually going to sew our drawstring to our waistband, and this is going to help keep it stable while we are draping it. Sew across with my free sewing tool until just about where I get to the openings that I created with the ellipses. And then I'm going to go to my drawstring and start at the center back of my drawstring and sew out until I can reach the designated picking point, which is the matching length of my sewing line. And as you can see now in my 3D window, this has added threads attaching it to my waistband. I'm then going to do the same thing on the other side, going approximately to the ellipse opening, and then I'm going to do the same thing here to finish this. And so now my drawstring has been sewn to the inner part of my waistband. I'm going to now right-click on the drawstring in the 3D window and say superimpose over. It has added that drawstring over the top of that internal part of the waistband. I'm going to simulate, and there's it's wrapped right now, and that's perfectly fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these pins that I have added here to pull the ends out. Now, as you can see, we have it sewn over the top of the two waistbands, which is not the way that it will be. Actually, the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to select both waistbands and the drawstring, and I'm going to change the particle distance to 5. Whenever you have garment pieces that are interacting with each other, the lower the particle distance, the better. That way, when they interact with each other, they won't get pulled through the meshes. Now I'm going to select just the outer waistband and change the layer in the simulation properties to 1. And when I simulate, that will pull the outer waistband to the outside over the drawstring. I simulated really quick, and then I turned it off really quick. Now, as you can see, in this case, our waistbands aren't coming through correctly. Okay, let me just move these a little bit, and that's okay. This is a good way that you can see the next step here. We've got one of them that's coming through the hole, the other one is not. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to use my pin box again. And I'm going to select an area here. I'm going to click on my drawstring, and you can see my picking point here where I've selected it. I'm then going to use my pin box and select my drawstring there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And again, use my pin box to add pins. Okay, so now I have pins here on the two sides of my drawstring. I'm going to simulate, and I'm going to use these pins to move my drawstring so that the drawstring comes through my two holes. And you'll know when you get it because the waistband or the pieces will stop wiggling. I'm going to stop simulating. I'm going to select the outer waistband and remove the layer from that waistband and simulate again, just to see that our waistband is stable. Now at this point, you're basically done with running the waistband through. But there's some things that you can do. You can unfold your waistband, your drawstring, so that it is double the size, and then you can fold it in on itself so that it looks like a folded piece of fabric that you're using for a drawstring. Or what I like to do here is I am actually going to temporarily remove all the pins here, and I am going to make sure, using my edit pattern tool, I am going to make sure that my drawstring is very, very skinny. I'm going to move the two segments closer together. And then I'm going to select my drawstring, and in my simulation properties, I'm going to add thickness here. I'm going to add thickness of 6. That's too much. I'm going to add thickness of 4. So what I have done is I have made this into a cord. Okay, it's still a little thick. I'm going to make it even thinner. And then just here really quick, again, I'm going to use the pins to select them so that they are stable when I simulate them now. And there we have fed our drawstring through our 2 holes. If you remember, we sewed our drawstring to the inside of our waistband. If you'd like, you can remove that sewing, or you can just leave it, which is what I tend to do. If you add top stitching to the waistband, if you put buttonhole stitching around the holes, if you'd like, you can tie the ends of your drawstrings, or you can add cord ends from the library. If you would like to tie your drawstring, look in our YouTube library of videos for a tutorial. Thank you for watching. See you soon.